right, so we'll call the meeting to order. Good to see everyone. This is the New York Coalition for Open Government September meeting. And we got lots of people. I was gonna go around and have people introduce themselves, but I don't know, with 20 people, that may just take way too long. But I will mention that Ed McKee, our former vice president, seems to be joining us from Florida. He recently moved to Florida. Good to see you on, Ed.
Hi, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Paul. Good to hear you.
So how are things in Florida?
Oh, Mr. DeSantis is keeping things lively.
Yeah. We got some open government groups down there too, I know.
Very good, Paul. I haven't had a chance to explore that, but we're acclimated and doing fine. And Florida is different.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the meeting minutes from August 12th. So hopefully people received the agenda packet that was sent out. I try to number the pages as well to make it a little easier. So starting on page 3 are the meeting minutes. And just for people that may be new here, we have an 11-member board. Our meetings are open to everyone, whether you're a board member or not, and it's open to everyone to comment, suggest things. But as far as making formal motions, because we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, we have to have that motions and votes done by the board members. So you guys know who you are. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to read the meeting minutes, and if someone wants to make a motion to approve them.
I'll make a motion.
Who was that?
Mary Lou.
All right, Mary Lou makes a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? I see Maria raising her hand.
I'll second.
Any questions on the meeting minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Then we have our treasurer's report, and we'll turn to our treasurer, Janet Vito, to talk about that.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Ed, nice to hear your voice.
No, well, thank
Again?
you very much.
Yeah.
I'm glad I had a chance to get here tonight.
So are we. As of the report, we have 56 total members, and our bank balance as of July 31st was $3,123.12. We had deposits of $40, and we had one expense for $200 for our web host, and which leaves us a balance as of August 31st, 2021, $2,923.12. And Paul, if I can report that we are expecting some additional funds.
Right, we should be having a check for $400 coming in from the National Freedom of Information Coalition. We mentioned earlier that they paid me $100 per person to help mentor some folks. So that's been a nice addition to our funds.
And when that is received, I'll let you know, Paul. And,
All right.
So that's where we are, and holding steady. Thanks to everyone.
What does the mentoring include, Paul? Is that like the current members?
It was just a 1-hour meeting with 4 different people that signed up for this grant program. In fact, one of them is attending our meeting tonight and became a member, which is great. And to be available to help them as they work on some open government projects in the future.
Terrific, thanks.
Yeah. Someone want to make a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
All
And I
right.
second it.
Motion by Larry Vito and second by Sonia. Any questions on the treasurer's report? If not, all those in favor of approving the report, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Uh,
opposed? Motion carries. Sonia?
Paul, have we increased our membership? Because it's been increasing, steadily increasing. Have we received last month more membership?
Well, we got 56 members now, which is the most we've ever had, that's for
Right.
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just wondering, since the last month or two, have we picked up more members?
Only like one or two, probably a month, the past month or two, it slowed down a little bit. We had that initial rush when we first made the link available online for people to sign up.
Yeah.
So, but we'll keep plugging away.
Hopefully with the new governor and the feedback, we'll pick up some more people interested in the open meeting issue.
Yeah, I mean, every time we get some publicity, it usually attracts, some folks.
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah,
it's Janet. Can I just say one word to Alberta, please?
sure.
Alberta, I want to compliment you on that wonderful set of minutes that you created. It was a really overextended meeting last month, and you did a marvelous job in putting everything accurately in a very nice consent mode. Thank you very much for your efforts.
You're welcome, Janet. You're welcome.
And I agree, because having done a lot of minutes, it's a very hard job, especially when there's lengthy meetings and complex. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I had a help from Paul. And I'm wondering if we could know who is on the phone here.
That's a good point. Let me start with, there's a phone number, 716, was it 2668193? Who's that?
Paul, that's Richard Bertrand in Lockport.
Oh, Richard, great to hear from you as well.
Mhm.
And then another number, looks like 9081496.
That is I, Paul. I kept my.
Oh, okay, that's
716
Ed McKee. And then I have someone that's just identified as call-in user 1. I don't know who that is. Anybody else on the phone that hasn't identified themselves? No?
Our secret admirer.
All right. So let's move on then to the next item, which is number 3, Albany Legislation. So for those that may be a bit new to the meeting, for the first time this year, we got involved in lobbying to get some bills passed. We were successful in getting 2. They're not perfect bills, but step forward. And they haven't become law yet because we're waiting for the governor to sign them. And my understanding is the way this works is they kind of send batches of bills to the governor over the next few months, and they have to be signed, I think, by the end of the year. And right now there's 500 bills waiting for the governor's signature. So with the changeover in governor and staff and everything else, I'm sure that's probably going to take longer than it normally does. So nothing to report yet as far as those bills being signed, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Paul, do you know, or is there a mechanism where if they're sending in batches, are there some that are considered more emergent than others? Like these have to be signed or checked off, or it's just kind of eeny, meeny, miny, mo?
I'm sure there's some prioritization process, but I don't know what that is or how that works. I'll have to ask legislator Paulin, who was the sponsor of these 2 bills.
Okay, thanks.
So next item then, unless anybody has any other questions on that, is number 4. The next report that we're working on is County Board of Elections. So several of you have helped to look at their websites and gather information. One of the things we did was file a FOIL request to request meeting minutes, because it's kind of interesting how few actually meet or have minutes. And the response has been pretty bad. I mean, very few acknowledged the request within 5 days. I had to send a follow-up request. Even still, a large number just have ignored both requests. I've gotten some responses that have come in. So I'm in the process of gathering all that, hope to start working on a draft report. Would like to get that out by the final report by the end of September, beginning of October. So I hope to have something put together soon. And I think that'll be timely. There's a lot of interest in reforming Board of Elections. The state legislature's recently done some hearings, and I think they're doing some more hearings. So I think it'll be a good time to do that.
Is there
Any-
anything?
Paul,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Paul, I had Niagara County and St. Lawrence, I believe, and I just found myself yelling into the darkness. And my question is, I never really communicated that very well to you.
No problem. You know, and it's interesting too, by law, they're supposed to have an annual meeting. So you would think at the very least, they should have minutes from their annual meeting, but many, I don't think even bothered. I had one county, and I forget which county it was a smaller county that said, look, I'd love to show you our office. The two commissioner offices are right next to each other. We don't meet, we just yell back and forth. Oh, okay.
Did you hear anything from Erie County? I didn't get a response from my letter and my email.
I did
Nothing.
get a bunch of meeting minutes from Erie County. It took them a while as well, but they did send me some stuff.
Good to know.
Actually, I think they're one of the better counties from what I've seen so far, believe it or not, so.
They know you're on their trail, honestly. I
Because
think otherwise we won't be seeing that.
Yeah,
So in other words, they didn't respond initially, but then they responded to your follow-up letter. Is that what I'm to understand? Or how did they do
I
that?
sent a FOIL request. They didn't respond within 5 days, and then they called me and said that my request got lost in spam somehow, and they found it, and then followed up with providing the information.
Okay, good, because I saved the email and the whatever that I sent in case we need that. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So let's move on to number 5 then, the extraordinary legislative session that the governor called. So, you know, the governor called kind of an emergency session of the legislature. Originally, it was planned to deal with extending eviction moratorium. It seemed like at the last minute, they tacked on addressing the open meetings law. And as we know, the legislative session was held without any of the bills being posted publicly prior to the meeting. In fact, legislators didn't even get to see the bills until shortly before they started voting, which is not a good way to conduct business. I mean, it was 36 pages of text that you should, as a legislator, have the opportunity to review and read, and the public should have the opportunity to review and read, but that's not how it happened. So we issued a press release criticizing that process and the end result, which they could have did, you know, more to address issues with the open meetings law. Basically what they did was went back to the emergency order that was in effect previously, stating that public bodies can meet remotely. But it doesn't say anything about, you know, providing a physical location for the public, for those that don't have, you know, internet access, or providing or mandating that they have to hear public comments in person or remotely. Doesn't mandate that meeting videos have to be posted online afterwards. So there's a lot more they could have done. So we rightfully called them out on that, and we got quite a good bit of press across the state on that. I think it's important for us to, you know, Governor Hochul has, like Cuomo claimed he was going to be the most transparent administration ever, and we know that he failed miserably in that regard. Hochul has said she wants to make transparency the hallmark of her administration. Well, that wasn't a good way to start. So we called her out on that. The Buffalo News has kind of picked up on that and did an article that came out in today's physical paper, was online yesterday. Watertown, Long Island, the Finger Lakes, so it got good coverage. Any comments on that?
Paul?
Yes, Richard.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand the wording of this. In this extraordinary session, the bill that was passed included extending Cuomo's emergency order relating to the pandemic.
Pretty much. It doesn't say that in those exact words, but like the order that was in place previously says that public bodies can choose to do all remote meetings as long as the public can observe those meetings live, whether it's by video or audio. So that's pretty much going back to the way things were.
I noticed today they only referenced the previous open meeting law advisory opinions that were on file from Governor Cuomo's previous opinion. So from my understanding, from what just today or in the last couple days, the website got updated. And again, they referred back to those emergency orders from 2020.
You talking about the Committee on Open Government website?
Correct.
Okay. And I did find an interesting document, Reinvent Albany and others. So following up on this, well, I'm kind of jumping around. I'll jump around to number 7 here. We sent a letter, our organization and other groups send a letter to Albany requesting that they hold some hearings to talk about addressing changes to the open meetings law. That got some good press coverage as well. And our organization and others seem to be in agreement that there should be hybrid meetings. I understand the need to do remote meetings when there's a pandemic going on, but we can't stay this way forever. And I think there's some elected officials that would like to do all remote forever. They kind of like being at home, being on video with no press, no citizens. And us and other groups don't think that's a good idea long-term. And there should be like a hybrid approach where you could have meetings in person and not everyone can attend a meeting. So it should be live streamed. So people that can attend a meeting can observe, and the recording should be posted afterwards so people can see those recordings. There's no doubt that the number of people watching government meetings has been really interesting. I mean, I think I've mentioned it before. I know there was 18,000 people that watched the Buffalo Common Council meeting through Facebook Live.
Wow.
In Ogdensburg, which is a town of 10,000 people or a city of 10,000 people, 1,000 people watched a council meeting. So people are interested in what's going on in government because there's always the argument of nobody cares, nobody comes to our meetings. But when you make it easy for people and use technology, the proof is there that they do care. And we should be live streaming meetings going forward, whether they're all remote or all in person. Why can't we do both? To give people as many opportunities as possible to see what's going on. So I found an interesting document. There's been a question about, well, what are other places doing around the country? And I can send this out and share it with you all. But it was a nice document that listed what every state, how they do their meetings, whether they do them all remote, whether they do them hybrid. And then so the interesting issue is, well, what do hybrid meetings look like in New York, or what should it look like? In California, they can have one board member be present at a physical location and everybody be remote. I don't know if that's a good idea, quite honestly, to go sit in a room with just maybe the, board president and everybody else being remote. A lot of places require that a majority of the members be present physically, and that some can be remote. So our group and others, we can take a look at what other places are doing, and we need to figure out what do we want to suggest or recommend. So I'll share that document that everyone can look at. If there's going to be hearings in October, we need to gather our thoughts and, what position do we want to take?
I have a question, Paul.
Paul?
Sure.
This is,
Oh, go ahead, Maria.
Okay, regarding this legislation, my understanding is it went from remote to getting off the pandemic to physical, and now this new legislation by Hochul is saying that we're supposed to be doing remote again. Can the agency or the group say, well, we want to stick with physical?
Yeah,
And we don't want to do remote?
it's completely up to every municipality or agency, whether they want to meet in person or all remote.
So if you wanted to meet with somebody, say in Albany, you'd have to drive 8 hours to meet with them, and that would be their total say whether you have to do that. Like, in other words, they were remote, then they went to physical, and now they're back to remote because of Hochul's legislation. But the agencies can still say, no, we're going to stay with physical. It's down the street and around the corner for us, but you might have to drive 8 hours, and they can do that with no problem.
Well, like I say, we are asking people to do both.
Okay.
If you're going to meet in person, there's no reason why you can't live stream it and record it and post it online. Some states also do an interesting way of handling it where they say it's okay for state agencies to go all remote for that very reason, because, for the state legislature or maybe state authorities or they can go remote, but local governments can't go all remote because, people should be able to go see their local elected officials, whereas you're probably not necessarily going to drive to Albany to see the state legislature.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
Yes, I want to make a point that I think it was grand that Kathy Hochul made the transparency statement, like her first move. It makes it easier, I think, for citizens to point out where it's not present. It clearly states that it's important to her, and the opportunity to be very public by many agencies now, in the light of the fact that she has mentioned it first. I think that's great.
Yeah, she kind of opened the door, quite honestly, to getting some pushback on it. So that's it on the extraordinary legislative session press release. Let me go to number 6, which is kind of related, Buffalo Bills stadium transparency. So those of you in the Buffalo area know there's discussion about building a new stadium for the Buffalo Bills football team. And those of you out of the Buffalo area may be aware as well. The Buffalo Bills are owned by the Pagula family, who are billionaires. They're worth at least $5 billion, but they want taxpayers to pay for all or half. There's been different things kicked around of a new stadium, which is anticipated to cost $1.4 billion. And one of the things that's happened with that is the Pagula did a study to figure out how much it would cost to renovate the current stadium, how much it would cost to build a new stadium, where that should be built. And that study is the basis for the negotiations that are going on. So the Bills have the study, government officials have the study, but the public hasn't seen the study, which is kind of absurd. They're going to ask taxpayers to pay for 700 million of that at least. Why can't we see the study? So Investigative Post, a local news agency in Buffalo, filed a FOIL request for the study. They were denied that FOIL request, saying that it would affect contract negotiations. And I think that's a misinterpretation of the Freedom of Information Law. I think you can withhold the study if you're competing with several others to build the stadium. Well, you wouldn't want your competitors to see your cost estimates. You know, that makes sense. If we're doing competition, you shouldn't release the study, but there is no competition. The only people negotiating, the only people building the stadium are the Pagulas. And everybody's in on the information but the public. So, and I think the other issue is there should be an opportunity for the public to be heard. The Erie County Legislature will vote on providing county tax dollars to this project, and the state legislature will vote on providing state tax dollars to this project. So it affects everyone across the state. But before that, those votes occur, there should be an opportunity for the public to speak, you know, whether they're for it, against it, whether they think it's a good idea, an outrageous idea, whatever the case may be, there should be an opportunity for the public to be heard. And that's not how it happened a couple years ago when bills did a new lease. It was rushed through the Erie County Legislature. In fact, I looked at the old meeting agendas. It wasn't even on the meeting agenda when they voted on it. There was no opportunity for the public to be heard.
Wow.
So I've mentioned that in some of my interviews that, you know, it shouldn't happen that way this time. We've prepared a petition that ran by the board members. That petition has now been posted on our Facebook page, and it's being spread around. I looked a little while ago, so just today it went live. We got 35 signatures today, and I expect that will continue to grow, but it would be great if we can get a couple thousand signatures from across the state saying that the public, two things the petition asks for: that the study should be released, and secondly, that the public should have an opportunity to be heard before any votes occur. Pretty basic requests, nothing radical. And I sent an email to the Erie County Legislature. They have, I believe, 11 members, asking, we want to know which one of you support these two things. Not one single legislator has responded saying, I support releasing the study and I support the public having an opportunity to be heard. Pretty incredible that not even one would step forward. Kathy Hochul has said she doesn't think the study should be released. Mark Polenkars, the county executive, says he doesn't think the study should be released. I think that's just, there's no reason why it shouldn't be released. And if you're a government official, you should be advocating for the public to see it.
Yet the public should pay for it, but you can't read it.
Right. So I think we should do a press conference on this issue. I think it's good timing, following up what happened with the legislative session. I think there'll be media interest in the issue, and it again puts it again in Governor Hochul's lap. You say you're for transparency, then you should be pushing for this as part of that transparency.
There's a lot of good letters to the editor in the Buffalo paper and the opinion page. Some really good reasons for or against.
Yeah, I see a lot of letters to the editor. I see a lot of comments on Facebook that people are angry about being shut out. Negotiations are occurring behind closed doors. The two legislators have introduced a bill stating that the discussion should be held in public. I didn't even go that far. I agree with that, but the chances of that happening are slim to none. I think it's more realistic that we could get this study released and we could get the public to be heard before some votes occur. So my thought is maybe Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, we could do a press conference calling for the study to be released and for the public to have an opportunity to be heard. Maria.
I just had a question. I just wanted to share with you kind of what you were saying. in order to have a public comment, you would have to have the study released. If I'm going to make a comment, I would want to know what the study says. Something that really bothers me, it's either in something that you wrote or just in the newspaper or whatever. Paul Cars apparently said that he has the study, but it's a secret document. He can't release it.
Yeah.
However, this ECIDA organization agency has it, which is also a county agency. So they have a copy, but we're supposed to assume that Paul Cars doesn't have it. And I guess the other part of that is, are we going to assume that Hochul doesn't have a copy? And so even if it becomes that we can have public comment, I mean, we need to look at this to see, because it might just be this wonderful thing where we say, oh yeah, we'd like to give $1 billion to the Pagulas because they're short on change. But I think it's real important that they release the study so that we can make a good public comment. I think it's so important. And if Paul Cars, as you said, with elected officials, he should be advocating for us. It's not his private little thing. He didn't pay for it. We're paying his salary. We're paying, he's going to be using our tax dollars to give to the Pagulas, and we should know how much, when, and how.
The interesting argument is releasing the study will impact contract negotiations. Well, that's probably true. I think releasing the study is going to cause public outrage, which may lessen the amount of tax dollars that have to be paid.
But like
And
Maria said,
that's even more sinister, because by saying, you know, Paul, I can't release this stuff. It sort of gives you that sense of, why is she keeping this secret? Or, you know, you can't come into my house right now. I'm doing the laundry. You know, we're not going to say it's sinister, but it just smells bad.
Anyone else?
I agree with Maria. I've said this many times. Our municipality will say, we want to have your comments on the grant we're applying for, but they do not tell you what it is that they're applying for, so that you can yay or nay plus more. And it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you, the bottom line, it doesn't say much about the citizens in New York State, our region, when we're making these complaints, which is basic, the most basic. It's like, oh, please do this for us. They represent us, not that we represent them. And I'll tell you, it really ticks me off. And I just think Massachusetts, what a difference. They work for the people when something's wrong. And what do we get? We get like, oh, please don't. And we're the poorest in this area, in the state. We're one of the poorest communities, Buffalo, Niagara Falls. And like a person wrote to the opinion page, you know, there will be people having to pay for that football and they can't even afford to go buy a ticket, and they'll be paying, supporting that. This just doesn't make sense. Have people, they're way out in left field, or they don't care. And this is a problem in the United States.
All right, getting Sonia worked up now.
Well, okay, but you're preaching to the choir here, and there are only so many people that bother to even have newspaper subscriptions. So the issue is, how do we get this on the air, and how do we blow it up on Facebook? Because that's all people are looking at anymore.
Yeah.
You can find everything online without having a subscription to anything.
But a lot of people don't have a computer.
If they're looking.
You're right. You're right, Michelle. But the thing is, and I know what you're saying, and I know the choir, but when I hear it again, it's like, I'm embarrassed that what we're talking about. This is 2021. Hey, Black Lives Matter. United. Black Lives Matter. New York citizens matter. You know, what I'm saying is, it's the same thing. The people, we the people, for the people, by the people, but we're excluded. It's crazy.
So I saw Mary ask, were there any other reasons given by the governor other than contract negotiations? That was the only reason I saw, and the Erie Canal Development Corporation stated the same reason. There are opinions by the New York State Committee on Open Government that say that exemption doesn't apply when there's no competition. So I think they're misreading the law. I hope that Investigative Post files an appeal to their FOIL denial, and I hope they litigate the issue. In case they're not interested in litigating it, I talked to Joe Kissel, our vice president. He filed a FOIL request for the study as well on our behalf, of the coalition. And I expect that's going to be denied. But then we can also appeal. And if someone else isn't willing to sue this issue, maybe we do. I think it's a big issue, an important issue. It could make some interesting law, make it very clear that when there is no competition, there's no excuse for not releasing negotiation. You're not even conducting negotiations in public. There's no excuse either. So we'll keep you posted on that and see how things go. Number 7 on the agenda, we already talked about. Several groups, including ours, sent a letter to the state legislature requesting to do hearings on the open meetings law. One committee chair said that they're looking to do that in October. So my hope is there'll be several hearings scheduled around the state, or ways for people to participate remotely as well. So we'll keep you posted on that. Next item is number 8.
Do we know what the actual hearings are going to be on, so we can ask pointed questions?
Well,
Like, do we know?
I think the point of the
We know
hearing,
generally what they're gonna be on, but do we have any specifics?
well, I think the point of the hearing is going to be the legislature saying to the public, what do you want changed with the open meetings law? So it'll be opportunity for us as a group and individuals to state what changes should be made. I mean, New York's law is very weak in a lot of ways. And I'll put together, a list of things that we've talked about in the past that should be changed, and other people may have some ideas as well. One of the things we talked about is the lack of enforcement authority. No one has authority to enforce this law, So those are the types of things I think that we can bring up. And we could probably work it out so we're not repeating ourselves. One person speaks on one topic, someone else speaks on another topic. We can cover a bunch of different topics and have a bunch of different speakers. But other groups will have their thoughts. I'm sure Reinvent Albany and Common Cause and League of Women Voters, I'm sure they'll have people speak on what they think should be done as well. So I think it's going to be more a gathering information.
Paul?
Yeah.
Paul, one thing I'd like to point out is that we have an excellent background and records in terms of what we think should be done to make those laws more meaningful. But the other thing too to be brought up, and no doubt when the time came you probably would, but I just want to mention it, is the fact that a good deal of other states have enacted laws regarding this, much in line with what we would like to see.
Yeah. I mean, New York does not mandate that you have to post meeting minutes online. Other states do. New York does not mandate that you have to hear from the public at meetings. Other states do. So it'll be important to, legislators like that, again, they're not reinventing the wheel. If you can tell them, 13 other states have already done this, why can't New York? This isn't like, strange territory. It's been done. So I'll work on gathering stuff that we can all use and gathering ideas from people, and we'll get ready.
Paul, items like you just said, I think if we had it on a small card, very clear, this is what, or maybe a comparison, here's what such and such state, here's what we do or what we don't have. And on a cheat sheet, here's the point. And when people see it in black and white, very simple, what the hell? We're in horse and buggy days. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, to really just real clear and get it out there. Even, you know, how in September, we have the conference, we'd have something, and people who came, or just on our website, here's what's what currently, here's how it is in our state.
Yeah. All right, so let me move on. Oh, Caitlin, you had a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what I did regarding advocacy on other people do it, why can't we? Is that I went to my old tiny town in Marin County. It's a very small town. And, you know, they took comment, had meetings virtual with comments, send out supporting documents, you know, blah, 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 all in, you know, to meet the requirements of the Brown Act. But this is a town that's a population of 2,500. So, you know, in my community of a lot of little small towns here in Columbia County, that was persuasive, because it helped demonstrate that this is not just a thing that only big fancy towns can do. So just offering, and I definitely think it would be very useful if we could summarize some broad and simple transparency and accountability, like you were saying, you know, enforcement guidelines that we know are in place other places. And just say, these are the things that are, you know, baselines here. And also compliance with existing laws as per hiring, you know, when you go into special session and all of that. And note that, you know, even our current laws are not really being followed, raising the Buffalo Bills things, because that was ridiculous. That is so clearly not in compliance with their existing rules. It was just silly. So, and, you know, if we put something like that up on a, you know, had a link to a change.org thing, I'm sure we could get a lot of people. I mean, I'm doing a lot of canvassing right now for our upcoming local elections, and people are not happy about the lack of transparency. Like, people are bringing it up to me rather than me saying, hey, aren't you sad about this? So, you know, and lawmakers, when they note things like, okay, the media is interested, so they've noticed that every time there's something on this, it appears in the local papers. If they also note that there's a lot of signatures that people are giving, that also helps too for advocacy, because I do think this is a really good opportunity and we better grab it while we have it.
Well, what I can do is, there's a great website, Reporters Committee on a Free Press has a great website. They have a document that they put together, which took a lot of work, and it has every state's open meetings law, open government laws. And I go there frequently, and you can scroll through there, and they have it really broken out nicely. There's a whole section on who has enforcement authority, you know, what section about meeting documents, meeting minutes. You can actually look at each state. And so I will share that link, and maybe we could break this out into, one person will take a look at, you know, what other places do with meeting minutes. One person will take a look at what do they require for posting documents. And it would be great to put together a list that, you know, 10 states require this, 13 states require this, and here's who they are. Because that's too big of a job for me alone. And so I will share that website and make a list of,
I'm in to help for that.
make a list of topics, and people can pick what topic interests them the most.
We could come up with a rubric for what we want to, for the topic, like what are the things, you know, the quick notes from what are the states that are doing it the way we think is good. Maybe if we could find somewhere where there's a quote from somebody, you know, talking about this from the state, or give some official a call, like, do you think, you know, whatever. I mean, It would be nice if we all had like a little template that we sort of filled out.
Well, you're better at putting that stuff together, so.
I volunteer for that.
I can get data and send it to somebody that can gather it. So maybe I need to get with Caitlin.
Okay.
we can exchange information, but
So I'll send it.
I have a question. From my own research, I found a lot of stuff about sunshine laws as well as, and I understand different constitutional arguments, but they're just with the upcoming national, is it the FOIA or the National FOIL Conference?
NFOIC, National Freedom of Information.
I'm not saying it correctly, the
Yeah.
upcoming conference in a few weeks. That there was some very interesting articles that some students wrote about constitutionality arguments that I think give really good basis of arguments. I understand like the main premise of the argument is, okay, they're generally not upheld, but they still have really good supporting major and minor arguments that I think are worthy to explore.
Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just saying,
Right.
I think that just perusing some of those articles were very helpful, that some of you that are better versed in that than some of us others might
right.
look at that.
Caitlin, is your hand up again or just didn't take it down?
I didn't take it down, but I just wanted to just make a quick comment to Michelle. Michelle, do you have an email address other than a Yahoo? Because I often can't send email to Yahoo or AOL people.
I have.
You can
I'll.
You can email
Worst
me.
case, I'll
but-
forward it through Mr. Wolf if we can't
Okay.
correspond, and
Because
we'll
I
figure
know
something
that I
out.
get
Yeah,
bounce backs. Okay.
sounds good.
All right, Maria, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that I think what we're doing with this is great. And we saw with Niagara County how notorious they were with denying our right, okay, how notorious they are with refusing to simply respect our right to FOIL request. You know, we had to go through their court case, which was very successful. And I'm just wondering if it might be a good idea somewhere along the line when we're doing this little project, and I'd be willing to help, is to maybe have a shame on you list. In other words, area such and such had 100 requests and they
Yeah,
denied
no shame.
98 of them. And this way, it's like a comparison, but it sort of brings out that, you know, Niagara County never answers, and this county does, and this village does, because there are probably a few places that do respond to FOILs.
Yes, but do we want to spend our time on what you haven't done or what needs to be done better moving forward? Yes, that
Oh, very
needs to
good.
happen. But right now, at this point in time, I think most of us are in consensus that we have to focus on what we can do better, educating others, and just doing better. Like, we have to do better. We have to lead. Like, it sounds silly, but I moved back here recently from Indiana and people are like, oh, New York's leading the nation. And I'm like, I'm not seeing that. You know,
Yeah.
I've talked to, again, the public access counselor from Indiana, who's a speaker at this upcoming conference. And he's like, oh, what do you guys have going on? So I sent him links and he's like, not a whole lot's different. But
Yeah.
again, he sent me links to other, and he specifically referenced sunshine laws. So again, there's a lot of things that we can learn nationally than just, yes, it all comes, our passion comes from our locality, and we do this because of who we represent, but we have to focus on what we can do better and not.
I think I agree, and I think you turned around my train of thought to focus our energies in a positive drive to get this where we can get information without beating up people all the time. I agree.
So I want to interject with a small counterpoint to that, is that one thing that can often be said when you ask for rights is, well, it doesn't matter, you know, things are good as they are. So I think it would be worthwhile. I mean, it doesn't have to be an exhaustive list, but I think from maybe each quadrant of the state, if we could give an example of some shame, you know, and that could be somebody's, you know, Maria, maybe that's your
factual
project.
accounts of impropriety. How about that?
I mean,
well, one of the things we've talked about doing is maybe in March doing like an annual meeting, and at that annual meeting, I would like to, we've done this in past in person, but we would do it remotely now that we're statewide. At that annual meeting, I like to recognize a few folks that are doing great things. And I'd like to also call attention to some people that aren't doing great things.
Right, that would be nice,
So,
yeah.
so we can certainly put that together.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of the hearing, I think it would be useful, particularly around the FOIA, is to, you know, how many, okay, I'm not a native New Yorker, you all know that. Like, what do we have? We have like a thing called the West and the Southern Tier and the Hudson Valley. I mean, we have
Downstate.
like.
There's
we
like
have, like,
9-10 different
am I
regions.
doing okay here?
Yeah.
But it's like if we could pick, if there was somebody that was willing to look up, like maybe somebody, some county to shame or whatever, you know, county tends to be a good level.
We're gonna audit them.
Yeah, I mean, just to, as an example, to say in this period, these many requests were made, and here's how, you know, so yeah, this is a problem, guys. You know, we're not just, you know, blowing hot air. You know, you need to acknowledge that this is a problem.
Caitlin, what you're
So-
talking about, we in Western New York, we have a real problem that New York City controls the state. And that's why there's a hoop-de-doo that somebody from Buffalo is the governor. You're right on point. Did you know that in Western New York, there are people in this area that in fact, I think somebody's working on how we could separate. And then there's the cons and pros on doing that, what you're talking about. I think you're onto something very good.
Yeah, I'm
that
from
idea.
California. There's always talk about separating. But yeah, I mean, I think just having a few examples of bad behavior for the October hearings would be good if that was one little piece somebody wanted to do.
I mean, I have lots of news articles that I've kept track of, and Patricia makes the point in the chat that we've done several reports where we've pointed out that people did terribly, and our upcoming Board of Elections will be another database of reports, people that we've actually reviewed, so. All right, so let me go on to number 8, which is our organization and others. Reinvent Albany is really big on sending joint letters, which is fine. It does bring the different groups together. It takes time to put those letters together. They do seem to generate some media coverage. I think they do it a lot, probably more than they should, but you know, that's fine. So they did another joint letter to Governor Hochul regarding COVID data transparency, and just pointing out how under Cuomo, a lot of that information was not being made public, and encouraging her to change that. So that was another joint letter that went out. It's in the packet. And I know Casey Jones, this is a big issue for Casey, so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that letter or what's going on regarding that issue. I don't know if Casey's still with us or if he left. Well, in any event, so we'll move on then to number 9. A letter we sent out regarding Ithaca City Council vacancy. So I mentioned we're going to start calling this out every time we see it. I see it a lot at local school boards. We've sent out some letters a month or 2 ago that when there is a vacancy in an elected office, a lot of times they will interview candidates in executive session, discuss in executive session who should be appointed to the vacancy. And there's this misperception again that, well, because it's a, you know, personnel type matter, we're appointing someone, we can do that. But there are opinions and cases that say that exemption doesn't apply when you're talking about an elected office. And again, it's a terrible way to conduct business. You should talk in public and interview in public, you know, who's going to get the council vacancy, school board vacancy. So I saw there was a press release that there was a vacancy in the Ithaca Common Council, and they were soliciting resumes and they were going to conduct interviews, and they didn't say whether those interviews were going to be in public or not. And for people to submit applications, you could email the city clerk at this email address. So I emailed the city clerk saying, hey, our organization is concerned about this being done publicly. Can you tell me, how is this going to work? I didn't get any response, which is, geez, if people are sending emails to apply, I don't know. But then I sent a letter and mentioning I didn't get a response, and the clerk responded, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm down staff people. I didn't get a chance to respond to your email. And I thought, well, geez, how are we handling responses to people that are interested? But apparently no one has expressed interest, which, I wonder. She sent me a copy of the Common Council rules and procedures, but it didn't specify whether this was going to be done in public or not. But a local reporter got them to commit that, yes, we're going to do this publicly. But anytime I see a news article that there's some elected office vacancy, it's kind of a form letter now. I'm going to shoot it out, making sure people are aware that you need to do this in public. Same thing for school superintendents or police chiefs. At some point, the finalists should be interviewed in public, and the public should have a right to participate. And so I just wanted to share that letter. Maria.
Paul, if there's an executive meeting behind the doors, are those minutes foilable? Where they're selecting somebody?
If they take a vote, it's supposed to be, minutes. Usually they won't vote in private. They'll discuss it in private and then come out and vote in public. But any actions taken in an executive session are supposed to be in their minutes. So.
Okay, because I think like in the town of Tonawanda, we in the past year just have people appearing on the council. When one leaves, there's another one. And nobody ever says like, we reviewed 12 candidates and this is the best person. It's just like, here's the new person.
Yeah,
So
that's often how it works too, that there are no interviews or, it's just whoever has the inside track. So
you almost feel better if they said they had 5 applicants and 3 were not interested and 1 wasn't qualified, but it's just, they just appear and we never quite know who appointed them or whatever. So I think that's an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah.
The more we get into this,
Anything else on vacancies? Number 10, we mentioned last month, it's coming up now, the National Freedom of Information Coalition, NFOIC. They have a great website. They're having a online summit from September 29th to September 30th. It's $20 or $25, so not a lot of money. They have a bunch of different sessions and speakers. You can go to their website. I still have to sign up. I know a couple people have signed up, but just making you aware that that's coming up and something you might want to participate in. I think I just sent out earlier, they also do a great monthly newsletter. I sent out to everyone a link to their newsletter, which they gather stuff that's going on around the country, and it's always good to see what's going on in other places.
And we were mentioned in their national newsletter.
Yeah.
Or on their website just this month.
Yep.
What is it called? The National Coalition of what?
National Freedom of Information Coalition.
Okay, thank you.
So next item, number 11, Cuomo foil policy. So there was some press recently that the Empire Center uncovered that there was a sort of a policy by the Cuomo administration that different FOIL requests were treated differently. If, they had a policy that if a request came in from news media, it would get reviewed. If it came in requesting what they deemed to be politically sensitive information, it would get reviewed. So somebody's not muting themselves, I can hear their phone. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to treat requests differently because of where they come from or what they're asking for. And that was a big part of why there were so many delays at the state level. So a lot of news editorials across the state calling that out, saying that was a terrible policy, and again, that needs to be changed. So I attached a couple of those news editorials to share with you.
Could you lower that a little? I'm sorry.
And
Thank you.
I know, one of the things that came to my mind is the current executive director for the New York State Committee on Open Government. Well, she, had a job in the administration. Was she aware of this policy? And, now she's the head of the Committee on Open Government, and I don't know if it was ever been mentioned. So that takes me to number 12, the New York State Committee on Open Government meeting is coming up September 21st, 10 a.m. You can go to their website and view the meeting online. I know that this policy, I've been in contact with some of the board members that they're going to put this on the meeting agenda, talking about this Cuomo foil policy. I've encouraged them that they as a committee should speak out on this, address it some fashion, some way. So I don't know what else is going to be on their meeting agenda. There's been an issue at the New York State Committee on Open Government. They've never in the past never had people speak at their meetings. So I and others have been requesting. I made a request to speak and the executive director denied me. I said, good God, this is the Committee on Open Government. You're not going to have a public comment session. And I had to appeal to the board chair who let me speak. But it caused some controversy at the meeting. Some of the board members, many of them, part of the problem with the Committee on Open Government is how it's structured. Many of them are state government appointees. And the mentality was kind of a protect Cuomo mentality. And they were kind of reluctant to have people speak. And so I don't know what's going to happen at this next meeting. So something that people can check out. Any comments on that?
Paul, I would think it would be a state agent head. I'm surprised that they would be on the open government, because what if somebody there's a issue sent to open government about one of his people in his department did not respond, and then he's going to make a vote. Of course, you'll say he'll recuse himself. But is that not? Seems to me that would cause problems.
Well, I think the thinking was that when they formed this 40 years ago, that it would be good to have people in government who understand government, like the director of the budget serves on it. There's other department heads that serve on the committee, but I think one of the suggestions we can make at these hearings is that committee should be reconstituted. I've had discussions with Reinvent Albany about that. It's interesting, the governor controls the majority of the board. There are no appointments from the attorney general, no appointments from the New York State comptroller. The number of appointments from the governor should be reduced, and there should be appointments from others. And that could be a recommendation that we make at these October hearings. And there was a state legislator, Kruger, who has a bill to reconstitute the Committee on Ethics for the same reason. It's very governor appointment heavy. And I contacted her and said, you could do the same bill for the New York State Committee on Open Government. It's important to address that too. And she seems interested in it. That's just another issue that needs to be looked into. Somebody asked me to state the date and location for the meeting again. So it's September 21st at 10 o'clock a.m. You have to go to the Committee on Open Government website. Usually under news or something, there's a link there that you can copy or click on.
Did you say the NFOIC, the National Freedom of Information? Because I have 9/28 to 30.
Well, that's for the conference. Now we're talking about the New York Committee on Open Government.
Okay, all right, 9/21. I've got that. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone
Okay.
else? Michelle?
Yes, if people didn't see the committee on the New York State Committee on Open Government, Kristen O'Neill specifically asked for questions that people believe would be of general interest to submit because they are having a virtual training next Thursday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. It's an open meetings law virtual training. Pre-registration is required, but they're asking for questions that people would think are of general interest. So again, would we want to submit in questions, or if individuals want to submit questions? That's again from the Committee of Open Government, and it's next Thursday.
It's been good that they're doing monthly training sessions now on the open meetings law and FOIL. That's something they just started doing recently. So if you do have comments or suggestions to throw their way, which is smart for them, they just want to know, what topics are people interested in learning more about.
Thanks, Michelle.
So that takes us to new business. Anybody have anything new to bring up?
I don't have anything new, Paul, but something you said a while ago, I was thinking, I think was related with the open meetings law. We have a new governor, and on cable, MSNBC and CNN, they were reporting a lot about Cuomo. And I think our issue with the open meeting law, I wonder if we could drop them a line to let them know what we are talking about and what we don't like, and maybe they would look into it themselves and, hey, this is what Cuomo was doing, and this new governor said it's going to be different. There'll be transparency, and look what's happening. Let them see it themselves, and maybe we could get them to look at this. And I got to believe that they would really be they're journalists for openness and transparency. So I'm thinking of that, and then I'm thinking, who do we know? Casey Hunt, I think that's the real estate person. I think that's his daughter. And the reason I say that, on his Saturday program, somebody congratulated him, and it was about this. I'm 99% sure, but I haven't seen her for a couple of weeks. And back 5 o'clock, I tuned in. She hasn't been there for 3 weeks. She's right from this area. So you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have somebody. I mean, they report on things, local things, and I've noticed since she's governor now, she's on the cable news around the country.
Yeah, I mean, she's an attraction. Certainly, New York governor is a big deal, and the first female governor is a big deal. So she's certainly going to get, a fair amount of publicity.
And follow up.
Like I said before, I don't think until recently, she probably never heard of the New York Coalition for Open Government. So
in her own backyard.
Maria?
No, I was just going to say the same thing. There is a lot of spotlight on Kathy Hochul. And I think with her opening the door for open government, whether she's with us or against us, it'd be nice if she helped us.
Yeah.
We have to just look at one of the reasons she's all over the place is because she's going to straighten out all that corruption in Albany. And of course, that's all what we want. But these are ways through mechanisms of open government to maybe ensure that maybe it doesn't happen again as drastically each and every time, we go through this Albany, whether it's Schneiderman or the other guy. It's always a big fiasco, a big secret, a big blow up, and then it's really almost shameful. It is shameful.
Yeah. Seems to be the same movie.
I would like to add something, if I may.
Sure.
Paul, I realize I'm, so to speak, a person non grata, and that I don't live in New York State anymore. But still very interested in what goes on. And with respect to Kathy Hochul, I respectfully submit that we cannot watch her too closely. And that does not mean she's not a good person or anything, but the circles she travels in and her husband And the fact that Kathy, from my experience and my recollection, is not a great fan of criticism. Most people aren't. That's understandable. But I just think we should hold her, you should hold her to her words very closely right from the start, and don't have any illusions, but be pleasantly surprised if she's as good or better than what she says she is.
Yeah, I mean, like most politicians, you know, she talks a good game. We'll have to see if she can back it up, and we'll give her the opportunity. You know, hopefully she realizes this is good stuff for her to run on. You know, she wants to run in another year, which isn't far away. We're going to hand her some good issues and she can take them and
You're
run
right.
with them, you know, but, you know, they
Anyway.
have to realize that.
And this is,
Yep. Anyway,
Paul,
Yeah.
if she wants to be governor, here's what is, where do you stand?
Mhm. Anybody else under new business? Michelle.
Somebody just mentioned that, you know, we have to depend on the government. We have to depend on the government. I've always been taught and been of the belief that, yes, there's the three general branches of government, but we represent the fourth. We represent the citizens. And we can never lose sight of that focus, that we don't represent the government. We represent the citizens. And that is our position. That is our passion. That's who we are and what we represent. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding what we represent, but again, we're that separate voice. We're part of
Democracy.
that procedure for the people who don't understand it as well as some other people might, who, again, we can't expect for our governor or our president or whomever to represent us. We have to represent the citizens. And that's our position, isn't it? From
Yeah.
what I'm reading from I came from another coalition in another state. So again, in just reading national coalitions, we represent the citizens.
Yeah, I said it. You said it well. Anyone else under new business? If not, our next meeting will be October 14th at 6:30. So sometime, maybe this weekend or so, I will send out an email with that link to the Reporters Committee for a Free Press that has every state's open meetings law. I'll put together a list of topics, throw it out there for people to grab some topics that they're interested in, and let's start working on putting together a document, a reform document that shows it's what's been done in other states that can be done here. So that'll be great. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone for joining us. I think tonight was probably the biggest crowd we had with 20 people. So that's great. There were probably some new people I should have had introduce themselves, but hopefully next time. And that we've been burning up these emails. I don't know. So some of us, hopefully the emails aren't becoming overwhelming. Sometimes I worry whether we're sending out too much stuff by email, but I suppose you can never send too much information, and it's up to each one of you, you know, what you want to respond to or not respond to, but it's been great, all the information sharing that's going on. I don't know if at some point, if it's better to create like a listserv, or if it's just easier. Somebody mentioned Slack, if it's just easier to do it the way we are doing it with just group emails. But maybe that's something we could talk about in the future. What's the best way to all stay in the loop and communicate? So if someone wants to make a motion to adjourn. Motion by Maria, is there a second?
Second motion.
Second by Sonia. So all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So that motion carries. So my hope is I set this up right, that I can print a transcript of this meeting. So if I can, I will share it with you all. And I also will be able, I believe, to print the chats that we can also share, which we talked about last time, but I didn't have my settings right. So hopefully I did that correct this time. And we'll see you October 14th, and I'm sure a lot by email before then.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Good night.
Night, everyone.